It's really hard to talk about the most meaningful meditation instructions. A lot of teachers, you can tell once you've really initiated very deeply into the structure of traditional teachings, the really deep teachings, you start to see, and when, as I am a trained mindfulness teacher and longtime practitioner of meditation, you start to really see what the difficulty is with going deeper. But our world is in so much hurt now that it's really imperative we start imparting these deeper transmissions into the essence of these teachings. I remember when I was young reading the Bhagavad Gita for my first few times. I've probably read it 300 or 400 times all the way through now. The Bhagavad Gita is one of those scriptures that its wisdom comes from the transcendence of an awakened mind. A liberated, fully enlightened being wrote that. And same with the entire Sutta Pitaka, coming from the memory of the monks of the Buddhist instruction to them. And these teachings, you can read them over and over and over again and read it and hear it from a much deeper level each time. The degree of conscious, the elevated states of consciousness, the cosmic universal way of perceiving of one's own life and self and body and senses is truly transcendent, and we're just not seeing it anywhere in our world. There's meditation and there's yoga and there's mindfulness, but there's no traditional sutta quotes. There's quotes of this modern guru or this modern shaman, and all people who if they really are aiming at this deep level, which it's even hard to tell nowadays, the truly devoted from people who don't quite get it. It always was, even in the Buddhist time, extremely difficult to see and know and understand. That's why that's what the faculty of mindfulness and clear comprehension and careful attention. So this is sati sampajanya, and yonisa manasikaro, very careful scrutinization. Yoniso manasikaro in Pali, the language of the Buddha. Sati is mindfulness. Sati sampajanya is mindfulness and clear comprehension. We have to be careful with what we believe. Our concepts create our reality. And if we're inheriting them from anyone just because they sound nice, it doesn't always necessarily mean that this is primordial transcendent wisdom. And I want to share some teachings, one from the Sutta Pitaka, that's the transmissions from the Buddha and the Theravada Lineage. And one is one of my favorite quotes, the beginning of a chapter from the Bhagavad Gita, that speak directly to this subtlety with wisdom. But like I was saying before, modern teachers, that we primarily see wisdom teachings are from people in the modern age. We're not reaching back to our ancestry. There's a lot of talk about, ancestry and ancient history, but not a lot of people are initiated into transmitting, studying these languages and these ancient scriptures. And I find that it is imperative that we dig into these deep ancient roots for our nourishment, for our spiritual nourishment, because we're not getting it. And I want to go back and say, it may be because, the teachers in the modern world, some of them don't really see the deep depth, or it may just be because it's hard. It's really hard to talk about it. It's hard to talk about it and also make money as a spiritual teacher, because deep wisdom is usually what people don't really want to hear. It's hard. Spiritual practice is hard, right? Transcendent awakening is hard. I am not someone who splits hairs or guards my words. Having contact with extraterrestrial, and I don't like to use that term at all. I don't like to call them extraterrestrials. There is a hierarchy of consciousness, and that hierarchy demands the first rule level of becoming a higher than human being is absolute union with the oneness of consciousness, is the absolute abandonment of all violence, of all enmity, of all ill will. There is only pure grace in higher celestial realms. These are higher beings. I would rather call them angels than I would aliens. They should be called people. My wife, she's Vietnamese, and Vietnamese have stories about visitations to this world from higher heavenly realms. That's how they're always talked about in history, because these beings are divine, they're graceful, they're beautiful, they're cosmic, they're incredible. So to have these contacts requires that we are on a similar level, at least resonating in that moment on that level. So if you ever hear anything that higher beings, beings that are malevolent are lower and thus do not have dominion over physical materiality, and they don't have dominion over the minds of others. These things are talked about in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. These things are talked about in all of Vedanta. These things are talked about in the Sutta Pitaka of the Buddhist teachings. And not in any small, light way, in ways that transmit exactly to the scientific truths that are being revealed in our world at this time. So teachings that talk about contact with higher beings, like Stephen Greer is doing now with this CE5 contract, like our government has known about for a long time, which our government is lying about through, someone is lying through our government and the media, which they own to us for reasons that are talked about that are very difficult. That's a rabbit hole that I don't want to get into at all. I just want to make it very clear at this pivotal time in history that everyone knows and understands that everything that you have in your mind about beings that come from somewhere else, unless it's from your personal experience, was put there by modern media, which is defiled with an unenlightened paradigm. It is not possible for higher beings to travel through space-time and visit us unless they are on higher echelons of grace and divinity and unity. That's why they've always been called angels and higher beings. I had mentioned earlier my wife from Vietnam, they have stories in all cultures. They call them people. Their word for them is people, higher people. They don't have a word that means alien, not even for other people. They have people, they have children of the homeland is Kong Ngui. Ngui is people, Kong is children. You call a boy Con boy is an elephant. It's the child of the boy. A child of the Vit, Con Vit is a duck. Con Cha is a dog. They don't have language. Many languages don't have words to be prejudiced to higher beings. They only think of them as higher people because they're like us. The laws of sacred geometry, of existential geometry, these are the primordial shapes, figures, root geometries on which consciousness and all life grow and pattern themselves. So 5 appendages everything's gonna hold very close to that geometric blueprint, because it is the perfect way to create life. So higher beings, they usually have 2 legs, 2 arms. They might have a few different fingers, but they have a head up here. They don't have like 3 arms and weird stuff going on, because we're all patterned on cosmic consciousness, a oneness. This oneness of mind dreamt us all into reality. Okay, so higher beings are higher beings. And they are only higher, they are only more beautiful, they are only more graceful. But there is one thing that they don't have there, that they used to see us, humanity, in ancient times as a precious gift to the universe. And that was our ability to know grace and to also sustain pain and learn from it. Transcended beings, they almost never experience pain. And that's the problem. We do, so we can understand deep, deep teachings more, to get fully in touch with cosmic consciousness. And that's what is talked about in all spiritual traditions, in all religions. These teachings, these deep teachings that modern teachers are just not bringing any attention to, they initially they feel like we're losing our grace instead of gaining grace. It's because we're material beings in this plane of existence. We seek our pleasure from outside of us. We chase sensual pleasure. This is the animal body. This is the lower chakras. This is believing everything is solid. Our mindfulness practice is the function of it. What we're supposed to be doing is very simple. We become aware. We become aware of things. You can be aware of your breath for the next 8,000 years and not get anywhere. Be aware of your breath and the impermanence of it. Be aware, be intimately investigating things. This is one of the 7 factors of enlightenment. It's called Dhamma Vichaya. Dhamma Vichaya, the investigation of truth, of Dhammas, of universal truths. It's one of the factors that allows you to become enlightened. It is balanced with concentration samadhi, because as we investigate, we can get too far out in the mental plane and not have the concentration to stay where we're at. There are others, it's not exactly what I wanted to talk about, but everything leads into everything when you start talking about these teachings. By investigating things, we can feel, we can resonate with on a deep personal level that the physical world is an energetic world. It is a transient world. When we know through our modern science, we can understand that every subatomic particle in this table, in that picture frame, in that gong, in everything that seems solid, the faculty of our mindfulness practice is to look at these things and recognize that's an illusion. It's not solid. It's light, trapped light. Subatomic particles are functioning at almost 186,000 miles per second, crushed into almost a 0 point. They're pure energy, and it's vibratory. They're going so fast, it's vibratory. I mean, my hand is no longer, it's see-through. Imagine something accelerated to an E equals MC squared dictates that when things approach that level, they dematerialize and become energy. Everything is energy. So the lie of the physical world, this is what the deep, deep teachings are trying to help us transcend. And here's the big kicker. We don't get anywhere until we renounce all external pleasure. The only way you're going to renounce it, don't try. Do not try to let go of the things that you enjoy. Just focus on developing a deeper pleasure from within you. But don't go along confusing yourself into thinking that you're a spiritual person if you are not actively trying to sever your connection from all worldly physical pleasure. My dear loved ones, I am a married man. I have had lots of fun with lots of people, and sometimes lots of people at the same time. I've done lots of great drugs, but there's a reason that celibacy is a major focus in spiritual principles. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about having an orgasm. You have an orgasm, and it is the best. Right up there with injecting heroin or taking DMT, in my opinion, or going back to smoking nicotine products if you've ever had that addiction. That high that you get, alcohol, sex, all these things, they cause harm. The pursuit of them causes harm. The more we pursue them, the more harm that is caused. Human trafficking and drunk driving and all of this stuff. These are things that we don't need when we aren't in balance with ourselves. This goes so deep that it's hard to talk about in a short window of time to impart the deep truths of these things. Sex, you have an orgasm, You may manipulate people, you may be heartless towards people that you don't find attractive because you're trying to hold out for someone you really find attractive so that you can cling to that external pleasure. That's an external pleasure. And even if you want to, justify yourself by saying, oh, well, I only have sex with people that I'm intimate with, that's fine. It doesn't matter. It's the feeling inside of you of the yearning, of the wanting. That's stealing your harmony. That is diminishing your peace, your grace, your tranquility, your equanimity. So we have to start bringing attention to how these things affect us, not shaming ourselves, not judging these things, just recognizing this diminishes my ethicality, my morality. Again, if you want to have connections with higher beings, our minds, the reason that we're not telepathic is because you don't want to be. Because if you were telepathic, your mind has to be completely wide open to access, which means that you're vulnerable to being accessed. Now, we're all like this. That you want to stand naked out in public, you don't even want to do that when you're having a bad dream, much less are you good? Truly a good person? Are you so blameless that you could be okay with everyone knowing your darkest thoughts? Have you eradicated your mind of darkest thoughts? Your darkest thoughts come from your desires, from your craving, from your yearning, your addiction. You're wanting things to be a certain way. You're undeveloped. It's just an undeveloped practice in you. Develop the practice of being at ease with all things in all states at all time. We live in an eternal, infinite universe. All things are impermanent. This is at the very core of Buddhist meditation. Anicca vata sankhara. All things are impermanent. Upadhuva yadamino. They arise and then they pass away. Upakitva nirujanti te samvupasamo sukho. To live in harmony with that truth, to find a means of living wisely in relation to the truth of that impermanence brings great happiness, brings happiness absolute. This is primordial wisdom. This is a simple seeing of the nature of reality. Reality is impermanent. All of those external pleasures, they only last a certain amount of time. Nothing says that you cannot enjoy them. And you can't not enjoy them when you are embodied. When you have a physical form, you're not going to be able to not experience what is going on unless you're in a state of deep trance and samadhi. Yes, you can have experiences of sense cessation. That's where it just kind of dissipates and you're not aware of your body, of your feelings, or of smell or hearing or sound. You can definitely get that deep in trance, but you can't live like that. So how do you relate to them without being addicted to them, without holding on to them, without losing your virtue, your divinity, your grace, your compassion, how can we be contented? And I don't know the term in Pali off the tip of my tongue, but it's something that the Buddha urged his monks to develop within themselves. Develop this energy of contentment, because when you can be at ease with external things, not hankering for them and not rejecting experience either, knowing it's all passing, and my life is passing with it. Everything in this world is lost. This is a world of grief. But this is not a world of grief. This is a world of bliss. This heart, this beating heart, and this mind, this energetic vortex of consciousness that precipitates down into physical form through the laws of sacred geometry and energy and consciousness and thought, that is divine. This world isn't. This world is not for delighting in. This world is not for taking seriously. This world is not for wanting it to be a certain way. This world is for us to learn our power, our great deep unification and divinity, our unification with that higher realm, our divine inheritance, that when our mind is finally fully liberated from addiction to the physical realm, it gains complete and absolute dominion over matter. But that gift from God, that gift, that incredible achievement of completely letting go of yourself, that's what has to happen before you receive the ability to bilocate, trilocate, read other people's minds, see back and forward in time, telekinesis, creation, manifestation, teleportation. So the way extraterrestrials, higher beings move through space and time is with thought. To come to do that, you have to have deeply, at least to a degree, to start to gain access to these higher states of mind. You have to be at a place where you no longer are under the control of prakrti, of physical matter, of physical matter teasing your senses and your pleasure, and diminishing your grace through your ethics, your morality, you know, and your emotional, your high vibrations, diminishing based on impermanent temporal circumstance. I want to get into a couple of teachings that speak directly to this because they're wildly beneficial. These are core teachings that I am just not seeing anywhere in, you know, pseudo modern spiritual fields. Spiritual work is the end of the line. It is the great work. It is next level, mind blowing stuff here, and it should be speaking to the very fabric of reality. And you know, I as a seeker when I was young, I was looking for the deepest. You know, I was not nearly on the level that I'm at now. I didn't believe in extraterrestrials. I thought it was hoopla, and it took me years to realize every culture speaks of this, and our own government, and many people all over. And I've even had, you know, strange spiritual experiences on the way. I had in the past. Now I've had incredible experiences. So I wasn't always on this level of seeing it this way. Things that shift our way of seeing reality, those are deeply dangerous to our nervous system. So again, this is what tranquility in our meditation practice is for developing, you know, an experience of inner pleasure, of inner contentment and grace and ease, like rapture. Rapture is one of the 7 factors of enlightenment. This is something we develop not from external cause and condition, but internally, creating the conditions for internal pleasure and rapture to arise. There's a term in Pali the Buddha uses, it's sinato sinanenati, sinato antarena sinanenati. It's monks to be bathed in an inner bathing. Sinato is to bathe. Sinanenati, bathing, to bathe ourselves in our heart energy, to bathe, not just connect with it once, not just do metta practice a little bit, but to walk in the world bathed in this self-nurturing and this letting go, the freedom that we gain when things aren't barking at us like dogs. You know, get a cup of coffee, you know, eat this, drink that, have sex with her, she's pretty, have sex with him, he's a hunk. Whatever it is, I'm down with it all, but I'm not down with none of it. Physical world is, it's an affliction. It is an affliction. It takes away from a grace that most of us don't even know is there. We don't even know we can have a connection with ourselves, a walking, consistent bliss. And the people that the Buddha, Pythagoras, the Egyptian shamans and pharaohs, Krishna, all of the great yogis, so many people in recent history, you know, this is why monks live far away from you because you think they're weird. If you're not initiated in deeper wisdom, if you haven't talked to them about these transmissions of like, look at the way you relate to the physical world, they get demonized. And, witches have been burned. And it is because they were great healers. They understood medicines. These women understood the harmony of the universe and how to manipulate and blend through Gaia, through cosmic consciousness, how to be in harmony with things and not wanting, oh yeah, you bet men hated them because they were pretty and they didn't want to have sex with anybody because they were totally blissed out inside themselves. And yeah, and the same has happened to men and women who follow the righteous path since the dawn of time because it doesn't resonate with the stream, is what the Buddha called it. He says, monks, flow against the stream. You have to be that fish trying to get back to source. Source of all things is not, invested in what's out here. And I am very concerned about, all of us have doubts about, is this person, authentic? Am I an authentic teacher? Where is this coming from? And it's important for us to cite, as a citation, the root concepts and to be very clear, yoniso manasikaro, careful scrutiny and attention to what's going on in our inner psychology. Like, does this fit? Does this not fit? Is this true? Is it true in my experience, or am I just resisting it because of some inner like trauma or some inner preferencing thing? Like, what is true, absolute, divine harmony and truth and resonant Dhamma? What is it? It takes, not jumping on our initial, what we inherited from our parents or were born with or got from our society, not worth trusting, our paradigm, our perceptions, our beliefs, these structures by which we judge the world, uprooting them. And I mentioned earlier, it's vulnerable to the nervous system because it destabilizes our whole worldview. We want to cover up. We're like, oh, if I'm not right about my worldview, if an animal is out, nocturnal animal, and its vision is impaired, like it's gonna go into survival mode. Like that's what happens to us on this level of paradigm, perception, beliefs, views. Things like the Spanish Inquisition did not happen because Satan incarnate came up and just jammed himself up inside of humans, started committing atrocities. It was us. It was humans with the same divinity that we have access to. They went insane with fear because their belief systems were being called into question. So to look at these things clearly, it takes real connection with benevolence and humility, all of the things that all spiritual traditions teach, to be in grace, to be humble, to be confident, faithful in your path, not blindly faithful in a teacher, in any teacher. On my website, it's stated that our intention is to make our students, the people that come to us, their own self-led teachers. There is a canon of wisdom and truth that used to only take so much time in the temple, in the monastery, with your guru. This is why in the modern days the guru sends people back to America since the 70s because they're ready, because they've received the transmission, and now it's like, now you need to work on just this until you completely transform all of this. And it's a vulnerable, tender process that takes time. And this is why, and it's also why a lot of teachers don't get into this stuff. So this force in the human heart that wants the joy when we have sex, when we copulate, when we join with another human being, this is a blissful, beautiful grace and harmony, or it should be. Sometimes, it's just screwing, and that's a part of human evolution, is to relish in sex and relish in the human form. The human form is, I don't need to say it, do I? But what spiritually is going on deeply in a sexual experience is unification with other. So it's symbolic of the great duality of the entire universe, but it's also symbolic of our reunification with the all mind, with cosmic consciousness, with the oneness of all consciousness that gives rise to all material. We're feeling this in our bodies. So remember the feeling. Don't let that sexual energy take control over you, but investigate it and recognize that this is what it feels like. The other part of that is the satisfaction at the end of the union. So in orgasm, in that utter completion, in those few moments, because they don't last long, we have to pee, or we're hungry, or we're thirsty, or we're tired, we just pass out, and then it diminishes and goes away. But something is always going to come, For a lot of people, it's that they feel awkward with the person that they just had sex with because they don't have any real deep, intimate connection. They can't sit there in a state of union with them and bask in that afterglow. But in that afterglow, what that afterglow is on the deepest spiritual level is fulfillment. And what fulfillment equates to is not wanting. So we demonize, craving, desire, we hear craving, desire, you have to abandon your craving, and it gets us all up in a tiffy. But it's like, that is what you want, because when you have sex and you orgasm, you feel great because you don't want anything else in that moment. That moment of bliss and fulfillment and release, there's no wanting. There's no thoughts. There's nothing needed. You are sated. Your thirst is quenched. You are satisfied. That's what awakening is. That's also what the path is, to more and more be less attached to the outside world. We're achieving that experience without having to manipulate others, without having to rely on others, without having to manipulate our environment around us, without having to be dependent on the external physical world. So, sense restraint, abandonment of the physical, renunciation of our desires, it's not a painful process. It shouldn't be. Develop this pillar, which is your grace, your connection to unification. And it happens to the degree to which you can let go of things. And our insight practice, samatha vipassana, that's what these two wings are. The insight into all external things are impermanent. We have to say that to ourselves about 82 trillion times within our lifetime until it finally gets all the way in. That's what our mindfulness practice is. We're sitting in meditation, we're being mindful of the breath, mindful of happy states when they come, this is impermanent. Mindful of the pain in your back from sitting too long, that's impermanent. Mindful of a sexual craving that just arose, if I did have sex, that would be impermanent. This craving for it is also impermanent. I'm thirsty, I'm tired, that's impermanent. Anything good that can come from outside is impermanent. And when it ends, if you delight in it, if you lean into it, when it ends, and it will end, you will suffer, you will sorrow, you will lament, you will grieve, because you've spent all of your time in that pleasurable thing. You've attached your happiness to the possession of the thing. This is why people get possessive of their sexual partners, because they're not spiritually initiated. They don't see with wisdom the functioning of their deeper psychology, of their heart, mind, body, chakral energy, and their connection with the divine. That's what's going on here. And we need to start seeing these things more clearly. And they need to be taught. They need to be taught by confident teachers who are willing to lose half of their students first because they said, oh, you have to let go of your desires, and everybody leaves the room. But the few that stay, you will be receiving the greatest gift of your life. Slowly, gently, in a nurturing, compassionate way to yourself. Compassionate that, oh, my poor self, it actually thinks that it needs to have joy from outside, and it's constantly running like a starved dog from house to house begging. Except It's from Starbucks to the bank to, the movie theater to the grocery store to whatever we're doing. And it's like, stay at home, please, stay at home. I will get on a Zoom call with you for free. Our website is for non-monetarily, uh, we are donation basis only. If you like, you don't need to pay for spiritual teachings. If someone is saying that you need to pay first, they are not a spiritual teacher. So if you need someone to be with you and say like, I can't sit still inside my own house, like, yeah, I will show up. I base, and all ancient teachers, this is the practice of dana, or generosity, to generously offer, because for 2,500 years and 5,000 years in the Vedic traditions, spiritual teachers have given freely, and they have been supported with food and with means. So you donate what you can, if you can, and if you can't, that's okay too, because next time maybe you can, and that's worth it for me. That's what a true spiritual teacher will do. So if you're not good at this, like, hit me up on my website, stillrhythmguidance.com, and I will schedule an hour or a 2 hour or a 4 hour day-long retreat with you on a Zoom call, and I will be there with you to just be present, to talk through these things, to guide you through contemplations of grace, meta practices, ways of arising this ease and this grace within us. If you need that kind of spiritual connection, this is called sangha. Kalyana Mita is a spiritual friendship. A sangha is a spiritual community, and that's what this world needs the most, is a unification of people. We can't all be trying to become enlightened and heal ourselves, because we have a whole world that we need to heal too. That's part of our broken perception. This path is completely about, and the Buddha said this, his attendant and cousin Ananda said, it seems like half of the spiritual life is about our connection with each other. It brings tears to my eyes just to say this, like, because God, our pain in this world. The Buddha said to Ananda, he said, Ananda, don't say that. Don't say that, because that's that confusion coming up in you. Ananda, my love, my friend, my brother, our connection, that's 100% of the spiritual path. Until we let go, and we let go, and we trust, and we heal this heart enough that we know we can trust it. That's what our world is. That's why our planet is dying. We need to get over ourselves and develop true, authentic spiritual community, which is vulnerable and it is scary, and we have to rely on each other. But first, we have to develop ourselves into this archon of spiritual goodness that can be something for others to rely on, so that we can then trust that we can rely on them. This is what this teaching is, and this is what we're missing, and this is what so many teachers are not really getting at. Because it brings up a lot, it's hard to talk about, and probably a lot of them don't see this deeply into it. It takes some deep experiences to get as deep as what I'm talking about. I lost my mother in a plane crash. I was studying Deepak Chopra's teachings on death and dying when she died, so I went from deep contemplations right into the real thing. I have lost friends to suicide and drug overdoses. I was a convicted felon when I was 13. I was raised in a Christian household and suffered a lot of abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse. I was convicted at 13 using drugs on school property. I've been in and out of jails, rehabs, and institutions until I was like 18. I met a Buddhist psychologist when I was 18 in a judicial setting, and it just lined up with all of the suffering that I was seeing, and I got it, and then I got on the spiritual path in a hardcore way. But wow, I've been through so many other painful experiences too, that suffering is sacred. Suffering is a sacred gift, because it opens us up to where we need to see. If we're experiencing suffering, it's because we haven't let go deeply enough to be in grace with the harmony of the human soul as this passing experience transiently moves on. To have that kind of faith. My brother, who I'm estranged from and I haven't spoken to for a very long time, he used to hate the word faith, and many people do. We get estranged from the word because it means a blind faith. But what faith really means is intuition. It's a deep inner knowing and a recognizing of the pattern the pattern of this leads deeper in. This leads to more harmony. This leads to beauty. I don't want to go on too long. I've already gone on a long time. I want to share this, one of my favorite verses from the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of the Lord, the discourse between Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. The battlefield of Kurukshetra is the battlefield of our struggle with the animal body to ascend to our higher self. Chapter 15, The Way to the Supreme Self, begins with this. Krishna said, "They speak of an imperishable asvattha tree, with its roots above and its branches below." This is like what a Bodhi tree does, or an asvattha tree. It's an actual tree. The branches grow down into the ground. It has shoots that go down in the ground, and the roots will actually grow up out of the ground and then come up and meet the branches. So it's literally like a tree of life, like a toroidal sphere, half in the ground and half out. Deeply symbolic, beautiful tree. But this is the kind of tree he's talking about, so you can have that image in your mind. There's an asvattha tree with its roots below and its branches above. Branches below, its roots above. Its leaves are the Vedas. That's the teachings. Its external foliage. And they who know it, know that tree in themselves, know the Vedas. The external view of internal pleasure, external pleasure. All of the teachings, symbolic on a lot of levels. Above and below spread its branches, nourished by the gunas. The gunas are the three aspects of physical world. So prakriti, material existence, is fed by this tree. This tree is in two worlds. It's the consciousness is the trunk. From the other side, it's feeding the material that is depending on the conscious, the immaterial realms. And it's a knot, it's a twisted knot. The Buddha speaks of a twisted knot, a tangle within a tangle, he calls it. He also calls it a jungle thicket, which, these trees is what causes a jungle thicket. Above and below spread its branches, nourished by the gunas. Sense objects are its buds. That's drinking, that's sex, that's physical pleasures, that's tantalizing music, smells, tastes, touches, and also the mind. Sense objects are its buds, and its clustering roots spread downwards into the world of mankind, giving rise to action. Its true form is not comprehended here, nor its end, nor its origin, nor even its existence. Having cut down this firm-rooted asvattha tree with the strong axe of detachment, one should pray, I take refuge in that primal being from which has streamed forth this eternal activity, and seek that goal from which they who have reached it never return. Everything that I'm talking about is the heart essence of Krishna's transmission, of Jesus' transmission, of the Buddha's transmission, of the Osirian language, of the Osirian mystery of Egypt, which is, of course, the Hermetic teachings of the Greek pantheon as well, which are a mirror image. If you look really closely and get into these investigations, you see the parallels and similarities between the Hindu and Vedantic pantheon of gods and the Greco-Roman and Egyptian pantheon of gods. The Romans, of course, just needed some gods to justify their bad behavior, so they just adopted the Greeks. The Greeks adopted the Egyptians because the Greeks were looking for, the deepest of wisdom, and that lived in Egypt. And Egypt, in its deep antiquity, neighbors to India, are they are the two sides of that asvattha tree, we could say. One is the roots, one is the branches, but you can't tell which is the branches or the roots. They were sister countries, they were sister cultures with a different flavor of the same divine wisdom. I want to share another teaching This one is one of my favorites from the Sutta Pitaka, the teachings of the Buddha. This is from, if you're familiar with the Sutta Pitaka or the collection of suttas. Sutta is the Pali term for sutra. Sutra is Sanskrit. Sutra, sutta, it's slightly softer. So Pali is essentially the same language as Sanskrit. It became a little softer. It's almost like they had, an Indian draw or an Indian, it's like being from the south, I guess. It's actually north. Pali was spoken in the north. Anyways, from the Sutta Pitaka, the Samyutta Nikaya. So there's 3 Nikayas, four Nikayas. That's bodies of teachings. One's the Majjhima, middle length. Digha is the long. Anguttara is numerical discourses. The Samyutta is the connected, based on idea. One of my favorite suttas because it speaks directly to this. And this is, I want to offer this as a sort of a cautionary, be careful. And this is the teaching that, makes it very clear, like, why we need to be very careful in these times with the kind of teachings that are out there and how they kind of lead nowhere, don't they? A lot of them do. I would actually say most of them really do, because this stuff, it's really hard to find a teacher that gets it. So I want to share this sutta. The sutta is called the Ani Sutta, the drum peg, from the Samyutta Nikaya, book 20, sutta number 7. This is the Buddha speaking to his monks, and he says, "Monks, once upon a time, a long time ago, there was people called the Dasarahas, and they had a clav drum, a big war drum, called the commander." A clav drum is a wooden drum, like in the cartoon Moana, the drum that she hits, it's made out of wood, but it's for beating on. So this is a clav drum. It's a war marching clav drum of the Dasarahas. Clav drum, and they called it the commander. Its name was commander. This is Mudinga in Pali. Each time the commander split, they inserted and repaired it with a peg. This is probably like a bow tie dovetail, crack bandage that you would insert into a piece of furniture or wood. I would know because I'm a carpenter. I made all my own furniture. Each time it split, they repaired it, inserting another peg. But there came a time when it was so old, it was this beloved emblem of their society, and it was sort of a national pride thing. So old and so cracked that there was nothing left except these wooden pegs. It just deteriorated. They kept having to repair it and repair it and repair it. In the same way, in a future time, there will be mendicants, that's monks. There will be my monks, my brothers, my friends, my loves. Those spiritual practitioners who won't want to listen when discourse is spoken by realized ones that are deep, profound, and transcendent and deal with emptiness are being recited and taught. They won't want to listen. They won't listen to the abandonment of sensual pleasures, the emptiness of desire, the non-connection to the physical world, because there will be too much delusion at that time for people to understand. We're talking about actually disconnecting from physical, not so that we can live somewhere else, but so that we can be in the physical on a higher level than the physical, bringing harmony and beauty to the physical without relying on that harmony and beauty like crazed addicts, but like real stewards of beauty and life and grace and love. There will be those spiritual teachers who don't want to listen to them. They won't actively listen or try to understand these teachings of mine, nor will they think those teachings are worth learning, much less memorizing. And memorization is imperative to understanding these systems of thought. But when discourses composed by poets, poetry with fancy words and phrases, things that make us feel good for just a moment, composed by outsiders or spoken by disciples are being recited, they will want to listen to those teachings instead of the true teaching. They'll actively listen and try to understand those, and they'll think those teachings are worth listening to and worth memorizing. And that is how the discourse is spoken by the realized ones, the great sages who give us this great inheritance through the lineage of time, those deep, profound, transcendent teachings dealing with emptiness. This is how they will disappear from the world. So you should train like this, monks. When discourse is spoken by realized ones that are deep, profound, transcendent, dealing with emptiness, are being recited, are being shared, are being offered, we will listen. We will listen carefully, we will listen actively, and try to understand. And we will think of those teachings, those are worth learning, those are worth committing to memory. That is how you should train yourself, monks. It's a really, really beautiful sutta that hits really, really deeply, because he's saying, true liberation is not going to be sold on every street corner, right? So what gives? Why not? What's wrong? This is what's wrong. We have to really recognize, we have to really, this aspect of yoniso manasikaro, of careful investigation, careful wise attention. Where do I need to really work? And what am I working on anyways? How are our definitions of what we're doing, of where we're headed to, of why we're trying to head here? What are our fears? What are our roadblocks? And please, please, please reach out on our website. Get in touch with me. There's no fees for a one-on-one Zoom call to get deeper into this. If it aids you enough that you want to donate, I'm doing my job right. If it doesn't, that's fine. I'm happy to share these teachings for free with someone a number of times without expecting, to be paid my $400 an hour, therapist salary for it, because there's a lot of trauma and fear of like, oh, I'm gonna dissolve. I'm gonna end up like mentally killing myself, and then I won't exist, or getting hung up on I won't have any joy in life if I don't get it from outside myself. I mean, when we really get into this and we look at it, it's like, is that really, the essence of my soul? And it's like, it's okay. It's like, that's what our compassion practice is for. That's why we're developing compassion. It's like, man, a part of me really feels like there's no joy except from outside, and that makes us a slave to circumstance. And that is not what any spiritual lineage is teaching us. It's teaching us that we are divine, complete, totally perfect and whole in ourselves, and even more so when we come into union with one another on this level. But first we have to be able to get ourselves to that level to have truly deep, authentic connections, spiritual connection with others. And that is what our world is starving for, and that is why our world is dying. So I hope that this was of deep benefit to you always. I hope that you are inspired and not feeling overwhelmed. I hope that this encourages you and uplifts you and energizes your practice. I hope this instills you with a vitality and a vigor. May every blessing come to be for you. May the devas and higher spirits watch over you. By the Buddha, his teaching, and the community of those who follow him, may you always be at ease. Through the power of those transmissions, may you always be at ease. Take care. Thanks for watching.